really loved Pink Floyd when I was 8. You know, it's like Adam Hartmother, and it had a cow on the cover. Oh, what's that mean? You know, and I was really, pretty nerdy about it. I got into Led Zeppelin around that time, and it was the 70s, so I was a huge Elton John fan, like everybody at that time, and Todd Rundgren. I got really into Todd Rundgren around 6th grade, and I think his music's been a huge influence on my writing, even though no one would ever know it, because nothing we do sounds anything like what he did. But it was a huge influence. I actually cover one of his songs on I've got a solo record that I'm hopefully putting out next year, and I covered an early one of his songs, and you would never know it was a Todd Rundgren song.
What song?
It actually sounds like I wrote it, but it's called The Range War. It was on the Ballad of Todd Rundgren album, the one before Something Anything. Then punk rock happened around the time I was in junior high school, which was, of course, just perfect timing. Saw a thing on a TV show that used to come on the same time slot as Saturday Night Live. It was called Weekend, and they did a report on this terrible, terrible thing happening in England called punk rock. And of course, I was just, I was like, oh man, yeah, I went back to school the next Monday, and everyone was talking about how terrible it was. I was like, man, I thought it was great, and so I started, trying to find those records, which wasn't easy in Alabama at that time. But became particularly, enamored with the Clash and Elvis Costello, but still am,
Right.
So, and that became my generation gap with my dad, because, he's a musician from that realm of it where, he was a session player, which is all about getting it perfect and preferably quickly. And of course, punk thumbed its nose at perfection and was more about, the anger and so that became our generation gap. Dad referred to all the bands that I liked as the chocolate vomits. And I remember trying to turn him on to the Pixies, and he just was having none of it. And then a few years ago, he ended up working with Frank Black, and they just clicked and totally hit it off. And he played on like 2 or 3 of his records in a row. So, and I think he told him that story. That was a kind of unique thing about my upbringing, though, was just the amount of music I had access to.